We must start, though, with the breaking news from Wall Street, where shares have fallen very sharply, second or third day in a row. I'm starting to lose count after Donald Trump confirmed that one of the largest tariff increases in US history is only hours away. The president was at the White House when he said there is, quote, no room left for Canada and Mexico to avoid the tariffs that he promised that would take place on March the 4th. That, of course, is tomorrow. The comments reverberated across the street. The Dow dropped sharply in the mid-afternoon after the press conference. The president says he'll impose, you ready for this, 25% tariffs on Mexico and Canada and double some existing tariffs on China from 10 to 20%. And bearing in mind, of course, that there are tariffs from the last Trump administration that are still in place. When there are times of crisis like this, who do we turn to? Mohamed El-Erian, of course, the chief economic advisor at Allianz and the president of Queen's College at Cambridge University, joins me now. At one level, of course, the markets falling so sharply makes perfect sense. The one thing you want is certainty. You want an investment strategy upon which you can rely on. But this is just an ever-shifting change of sands when it comes to tariffs.
It is, Richard, and the market were expecting something to happen that would mean that the tariffs wouldn't be implemented. And that's why you got this sharp reaction. It comes on top of a strong whiff of stagflation, meaning lower growth and higher inflation, that's been apparent in a number of data releases. And as we know, tariffs would just accentuate the smell of stagflation.
So these tariffs, first of all, we have the economic, seemingly against the orthodoxy that they're non-inflationary. You can't have price rises of 20% and that not be inflationary. No importer can afford to withstand and eat that sort of margin, can they?
It's a big debate because you have to assume what will the importer do. You'll have to make assumption about what will the buyer do, the consumer. But evidence suggests that they tend to be inflationary, but they also tend to reduce overall demand. So you get lower growth, higher prices. And that is the one thing that policy has enormous difficulty with. And that's what you see, why you see the markets being so nervous about this.
Because we're starting from a level of high valuations. I mean, some would say absurdly high valuations, particularly on AI. It is almost as if the US economic policy at the moment, short to medium term, is doing everything it possibly can to make investors' job as difficult as it possibly can be.
I think the image I have, whether it's for investors or whether it's for companies, is trying to drink from a fire hose. It's coming at you so quickly that the temptation is to step aside. And you have 5 big areas that are in play. We're talking about trade, but let's not forget also what's happening with DOGE and the budget. Let's not forget what's happening on energy, on immigration, and on deregulation. These are 5 big areas. They're all in play. The Trump administration has hit the ground running. And the result of that is this fire hose. So companies are increasingly in a wait-and-see attitude, right, and now investors are in a wait-and-see attitude.
So one of the things we're looking at is where does the system, what should we look at for the system breaking down? In a sense, we've had small examples, the nuclear inspectors that were fired and then had to be rehired, the peanut butter in Georgia. We've got these isolated examples of where the plumbing of the government is starting to show strain. But what we're all really looking for is, because of that fire hose, the inability of government, of the system of government, to withstand this level of change. What would you be looking for?
So I would distinguish between the journey and the destination. The destination is a slimmer government, a more efficient government. The journey is really complicated because 2 things happen in the journey. One is you interrupt payments, you interrupt contracts, and that tends to disrupt activity. And then the second thing is you make federal employees highly insecure about their future income, about their jobs. And that also has a negative effect. So the journey that's being navigated here is both problematic within the government and with anybody that has relations with the government.
Mohamed, let me just, for our dear viewers around the world, give us some free advice. What does the investor do in this scenario?
I think the investor has to recognize there is a lot of uncertainty in the system. When you have so much uncertainty, the possibility of a mistake goes up. No one wants to make a mistake, but if the world is so uncertain, you tend to make mistakes. Most mistakes are recoverable in investments, some are not. So investors have to be very honest with themselves. What is a recoverable mistake? What's an unrecoverable mistake? If, for example, you're using your grocery money in the stock market right now and it goes, that's an unrecoverable mistake. So you've got to be very honest with yourself in terms of what's recoverable, what's unrecoverable, and what's recoverable, just wait, because this will pass. What's unrecoverable, you should be careful not to lose the money you absolutely need.
I'm grateful to you, sir, for that. Send the bill to the usual place. I'll pay it with interest, as always. Mohamed El-Erian joining me. I'm grateful indeed. Thank you.